In July 1944, the Allies launch a series of offenses on Caen, attempting to push into the fields to the south. It is some of the most intense fighting of the entire Normandy campaign. As the months drag on, they advance only a short distance, suffering heavy casualties. And no one is hit harder than the Allied armor, which in only 1 month of battle loses more than 400 tanks.
One of the first things we saw in Normandy was a knocked-out Sherman tank. And it had gone up in flames, as Shermans were infamous for exploding, going into a sheet of flame 20 or 30 feet high. The tank that we saw still had 2 or 3 of the crew sitting inside, but no longer recognizable as human beings.
The Germans used to call us Tommy Cookers because they burnt so easily. I became a fatalist overnight. And I'm glad I did, because I think that's the only way you could survive.
And one at that point realized that we were in tremendous danger, because this was something that Germans could obviously do with their great guns.
They'd go in one side, out the other sort of thing of some of our tanks. But the main thing was that they could knock out our tanks at a safe distance.
And we had not been informed in any way that this is the fate that waited us just up the road. In your mind, every German tank was a Tiger, because the Tiger was the terror, and if it was a Tiger, then you had to fight for your life.
Each one of us, you know, you had the jitters every time you saw the buggers, because the gun was so much superior.
Technically, the range needed to knock out a Tiger by a 75 was about 2 or 3 inches. The shots from 75 were bouncing off like ping pong balls. One thing we had in advantage was what we called a Firefly. It was still the normal Sherman, but the 75mm gun, which was about a 6-pounder, had been replaced by a 17-pounder. For the first time, we realized we now had a tank which was equal to the Tiger, and we were able to believe it.
August 7th, 1944. More than 25,000 British and Canadian troops assemble for Operation Totalize, a major offensive devised to crack the German defensive line south of Caen. Unlike previous operations, Totalize is planned as a night assault to confuse the Germans and limit their response. It begins at midnight, August 8th. The initial attack is a success, and in less than 4 hours, the Allies break through the German lines and begin advancing south. Progress in the dark is slow for some units, while others, like the Northamptonshire Yeomanry and the Sherbrooke Fusiliers, proceed quickly to their objectives. Isolated from the main force, they dig in for the inevitable German counterattack. And so it is, in the early hours of August 8th, that the stage is set for the Allies' final confrontation with the Black Baron. Northamptonshire Yeomanry is one of 2 armoured units claiming to have killed Michael Wittmann. To test their version of the event, Norm Christie must first pinpoint their exact position on the battlefield that fateful day.
We know that in 1944, the Yeomanry hid in the orchard south of St. Agnon. But in 60 years, a lot of things have changed. For example, the orchards aren't there anymore, so we're going to have to try to determine where they were. It's going to be a little challenging to try to find out exactly where everybody was.
At 8 a.m. August 8th, the Yeomanry has reached its objective, Saint-Agnon, and is moving into the woods south of the village, where its units will take up defensive positions in case of a German counterattack.
Today there's no orchards and very little woods, but this whole area was wooded in 1944. And from here they got a commanding view of the area to the south and to the west. You can see the Route Nationale over here, and the Germans were further south.
As the yeomanry prepares its position, the Canadian Sherbrooks are also advancing west of the Route Nationale. Norm Christie will now pinpoint their exact position at the moment Michael Wittmann was killed.
So what we're going to do is we're going to go by the Canadian cemetery, and just a little bit north of it is Gumisnel, which is a very, very small hamlet. And this is where the Sherbrooks set up. We know it was in a stone wall around an old chateau. Here's looks like our wall. So this is our first entrance into Gumisnel. So we'll go right into the middle of the hamlet, and we'll ask where this chateau was.
In his search for the old chateau, Norm Christie is directed by locals to the eastern outskirts of the hamlet of Gumisnel, a short distance from the Route Nationale.
Pardonnez-moi, monsieur. Bonjour, monsieur, ça va? Ça va. Et je cherche pour le place pour le vieux château et le vieux mur.
Oui, voilà. Tout de suite, on est ici.
Oui.
Là, la maison. Et le vieux château, ici.
OK.
Et un mur tout autour, comme ça. Le château, il a brûlé avec les Anglais. Mais c'était pas l'aviation, ni les chars, ni le... il a brûlé.
C'est un accident.
Accident bête, oui. Accident... beaucoup...
Merci, monsieur.
Voilà.
So, what's happened is the old chateau was just north of here, and that the wall came around. It was a huge wall that went up to this area around about 30 meters down that way, then down to the main road. Then at the end of the war, the chateau burnt down, and apparently a bunch of English soldiers got drunk, and the thing caught fire. So this is the correct wall. I want to see if I can get inside there to see exactly what the Sherbrooks could see on the day of the battle. When I got through here, so that certainly looks like the wall we're looking for. If you look over here, you can actually see the work of the Sherbrooks. You can see the holes over there. Those are Sherman-sized holes. And that's where they would have broken through. You can also see where they knocked down the wall to firing height. And of course, this is where they set up some of their defensive positions. It gave them an incredible field of fire. And if the Germans wanted to attack from Sinto north, the Sherbrooks had them. The Sherbrooks were hiding behind here. But what's really exceptional about this is that they were so well hidden that no one even knew they were here. And even the histories of the war afterwards don't mention anything about the Sherbrooks being here. Walters had picked such a superb position that no one was ever going to find him.
But what Radley Walters does not know is that a short distance to the south, in the village of Sinto, an SS ops group, including Michael Wittmann, is planning a counterattack. For the Germans, the situation is critical. Operation Total Eyes has broken their defensive line, decimating an entire division in the process. Now it threatens to cut off all remaining German units in Normandy. They have no choice but to strike back without delay to halt the Allied advance. Kurt Meyer, commanding the 12th SS Division, is ordered to launch a counterattack near the Route Nationale. Faced with overwhelming odds, Meyer calls upon the one man capable of turning the tide: the Black Baron.